Right, Aviv, it's great to have you in the podcast there. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you.
Good, good.
Been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
it's great. It's great to reconnect with you. And yeah, it's been a while since we last spoke. I think I first did a podcast with you when I kind of first started out, and
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
just did
yeah,
it on audio. So it's great. It's
yeah.
great to connect with you on video. And I just thought I'd touch base and just kind of what's kind of changed and kind of where you're at now and what you're doing and a bit about your story for people who don't really know.
Right, right. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Um, but but yeah, let's go back a year when we did the first time we did the podcast. I think you were at like 12 episodes, and now you're at 200. So there's definitely been, some evolution there.
Mm.
And much like all of us, we're all trying to evolve instead of remaining stagnant and getting stuck in our loops of patterns and behaviors and thoughts and whatnot. But the last time we spoke, that was literally like almost a year ago exactly, and a lot has happened. That was like right at the very beginning of the pandemic, and I think everyone's world was kind of shaken up, including my own. I can only speak for myself, but yeah, I think in a lot of ways I was fearful, and I dipped back into a darker space, which served its purpose. Which is also why I was also postponing our podcast. You reached out in February, and I was like, oh, maybe do it next month, and then but everything happens for a reason, and now we're here, and I really learned a lot about myself. Before we had even connected, I was starting to put myself out there more on social media, and but I didn't feel like I was being authentic. I didn't feel like I would really. I almost felt like I had a bit of an imposter syndrome. Like even I don't know if I have you on Facebook. Maybe I have you on LinkedIn, but it's pretty similar, my setup. But I would even my cover photo was sort of like a marketing gimmick. I put like cancer survivor, healer, consultant, but by no means am I actually, like, I don't take clients. I don't work with clients one-on-one. Like, that's not like it's really hard for me to put a price on someone else's healing, if you will. But when I say healer, I'm more so speaking about myself, and because that's all I'm responsible for is trying to heal and grow this mind and body. And yeah, so I'm just coming to terms with that and accepting it, and just sort of realizing who I am and what my true nature is, and what was blocking me, from actually being the person that the world needs me to be. And the past month or so, I've been, my world's kind of like shaken up a lot. Um, in the sense, I like going through relationship problems, different family dynamics, rethinking my career, the direction I want to head into. And I don't know if you're into like astrology or anything, but there's something called like Saturn's return. So I just hit my Saturn return. It happens every like 14, 28 years, like 56, whatever. And Saturn is known for being like the stern father. So it's like something's gonna happen to you, and it's gonna put you on the right path. And that's typically around the time where people really settle down, they get married, they have kids, they start their career. So I'm really feeling that energy right now. And but what's really beautiful is the past week or so, past 2 weeks, I've been cleansing myself, purifying myself, and really clearing my channel. And like I was heavily relying on I think your video went out. Should I continue?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm listening. I'm just gonna check my Zoom thing. I'm still listening. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be completely transparent and honest. I was heavily relying on marijuana. I had like deep rooted sexuality problems. Like I was relying on porn and masturbation just to it was my way of coping, and it was like for me personally, this might be uncomfortable for some people to listen to, but it I was exposed to pornography at a really young age. Like my dad was a computer programmer. He put me on the like I started using a computer at the age of 3, and the internet is like 99% of the websites are you know porn basically. So it was inevitable that I was exposed to it, and I didn't realize it. I think everything has a purpose. I'm not saying any of it's bad per se. It can be used for exploration, but there's a point where where if you're relying on it to cope with reality, then you're abusing it. And I think the key here is balance. So that's where I'm trying to get back to, and that's where I feel like I am now. And my intention is to you know preserve this space and mindset that I have right now, and this energy that I'm embodying right now. And yeah, it's really hard for me to go back because I experienced a lot of internal and emotional pain, and yeah, so that's why in the beginning I said I feel like a bit of an imposter. And that time I did talk to you. It was like the beginning of when I started diving back into that darker place, because I had gone. I'm sure you've heard of like NoFap and semen retention and whatnot. So I was like man, like 5 months deep into it, and even then, I think anything too extreme could have its detriments. And yeah, so it was just, it was just, I was just like battling with this reality of like, oh man, like what is the public gonna think of me? This is like if I'm going through this, but I'm human. And you know, you, so it was just interesting because I would like proclaim myself as a healer and like cancer survivor and consultant and whatnot, but deep down, like I knew I wasn't actually doing any of that. Maybe like at least not on a professional level. And yeah, so just coming to terms with that and accepting that reality. And it's not to say that I don't have those abilities or skill sets to do those things, because it just it was really hard for me to, because people, some people were reaching out and they wanted to connect and they wanted to learn a little bit more about what I do, but it just never felt authentic, so I never actually like dove into that. And yeah, it's hard for me to actually put a price on people's healing. And I had traveled, if you want to, the reason why I even got to that place in the first place was I had traveled with a world-class energy healer about in like 2016, 2017. We were working really closely. Like I was his main assistant, and we were creating viral videos. And he was a legitimate energy healer. Like the shit. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it, because it was really life changing just being around that. And you could check it out, some of the videos and whatnot. It's called the Evolving Humans. And we were traveling through like Montreal, LA, San Diego, and and Toronto as well. And we were making viral videos because no one had really ever done that. They would never No one really went out on the street showing people energy healing and essentially healing them. And the videos we were creating were generating like hundreds of thousands of views, sometimes millions. And it even led to us traveling to San Diego, where we were working with science labs, getting it measured scientifically. And man, it like after that trip, I knew my life wasn't the same. Like the shit I witnessed and filmed, and it hasn't been released yet. But you know, like I'm trying to be like pretty low key about it. I actually don't talk about it much, even to the people around me. Like it just goes way over their head. Like they can't really comprehend what actually happened. But you know, let's just say I had like I we were working with a technician at a 4D ultrasound lab. And so actually like measuring, like you could see the disease. And there was like one, it hasn't been released yet, and it will be. And I'm also like a bit hesitant to even share this publicly, but I'm gonna do it anyways. But nonetheless, like during the process, you know, it was about like the session was like an hour and a half long, but it was like she was like having an exorcism during the session, and you could see on the screen during the ultrasound, like the technician was like, you know, she was doing her job. She was great, like, you know, perfect technician. I mean, yeah, she was paid obviously to just do her job. That's how we were able to book the session in the first place. But nonetheless, man, like she had a black mass. And as she was going through this like experience, like this exorcism where she was just releasing so much, she let out this huge sigh of relief. And all you saw was this black mass disperse on the screen. And like the technician couldn't find it anymore. She couldn't find that black mass. And it like it was real, and hasn't been released to the public, and it will be. And I mean, this is also, it's all about timing, you know, right now with the whole blockchain movement and crypto movement is probably going to play a little bit into that, because you know, blockchain, if you store it on a blockchain network, like it's there forever. So that's the whole point of it. And a lot of people will get, you know, scrutinized, and even you know, they'll be violently attacked for putting this kind of stuff out there. So but it was hard, like seeing that reality, that element of life where people were so disconnected from their divine nature, they didn't even know what their true potential is. And then coming back to, you know, the matrix, if you will, it's just like it was hard to resonate. I just was very confused, you know, like shit, like everyone around me is like, they don't, like I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't know how to, I just didn't know what to do. So I almost like ignored it. You know, I almost, but you know, the past couple of weeks as I've been, you know, sort of purifying myself and just like getting rid of all the things that were blocking me in the first place, and like sitting with my emotions and crying, like crying a lot, releasing stuff, that had the it kind of brought me back to that same place where who I was before the world told me who I was. And I'm dreaming again. I'm feeling good again in my body. I've been, you know, isolating myself and being in solitude, and it feels really good to do that. And I think that's really important for humans to evolve, you know. And one thing that's coming up for me is you know, Shaquille O'Neal asked Kobe Bryant in an interview, he's like, what, you know, where did you get your killer instinct from? Where did you get your ability to, you know, be a champion from? And he said isolation. Because that's when you really know yourself, and you're gonna see yourself for who you are. You're gonna see your shadows, you're gonna see your light. And more than anything, you know, I think there's a lot of, especially in like the spiritual community, like a lot of people are trying to be light workers, and they're also shadow workers. But overall, we're all energy workers. You know, there is no light without darkness. And I think, you know, if I'm trying to think of like what my life purpose is, and what I'm trying to do is you know, my message is really to just restore balance and harmony, and really it starts, you know, within. And that's gonna, you know, it's gonna leak outwards into the world, into your family. And you know, that's what society is really made up of, is it's the bunch of families. So you know, that's what I'm trying to focus on. And I think that's the direction I want to head into, is continuously just being authentically myself, unapologetically. And I know this shit's gonna go over people's head, and they're gonna judge, and they might even scrutinize, and I'm gonna get hate for it, but like, it is what it is, and I'm not worried about that, because when you're actually, when you deeply feel connected to your higher purpose, to spirit, to God, whatever, you're gonna be able to do anything. And it's a really good place to be in, and part of the reason why I'm able to do this podcast right now. And yeah, so I know I'm kind of ranting a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of just, I don't know where to go from here, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I said a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll recap, and I think, like, you know, you've been, I think first point off is, like, being authentic and being your true self is definitely something, we should all do. And I think it's something that people and human beings are trying to seek and trying to find, what it is that, is them, who are they? People are looking for themselves, people are trying to seek it out, through different recreations, different jobs, different things. So I think, like, for you to be your authentic self and to be able to communicate what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what's going on, it's quite, powerful to do. It takes a lot to do that and get to that place. And, I commend you for that. And I think, like, going back to when we last met and taught and spoke to now, you said, like, different things have happened, lots of different shifts, um, and going to dark places. And I think, like, the pandemic has definitely been, a big silver lining for a lot of people. It's definitely, I think, forced people to look at things that they probably didn't want to look at,
Yeah.
and try and, it's that isolation. People have been put into that isolation, not by their own choice, so, depending on where you are, in your situation. But it's definitely given people more, that inward, that introspective
Yeah.
place to really think about stuff. And you've got to deal with that, as you said, things are going to come up, and you've got to look at that. And if you don't, it's going to cause a lot of,
Exactly.
uncomfortable emotions. So you, like you said, you tried these different things, and you've just tapped into, yourself and different relationship issues and things like that. But you ultimately on that path, working through stuff, and, being your true self. And with, like, energy, like you said, like, a lot of people are gonna have their own opinions on what we spoke, what we talked about. But, that's life. And it doesn't matter what you do or what you speak about, there might always be that one person who has an opinion on it or whatever. I get that with podcasting. People got their own views on what I'm doing, and what I
Right.
should be doing. And that just, you're always going to get that small percentage. But in you pursuing what you're feeling strongly about, and what we talked about, and by you being your authentic self, you're going to get people who are going to support you.
Yeah.
People will support you along your journey. You'll find the right people, and they'll get you. They'll get
Yeah.
it, because they.
Yeah.
I think, some people, it's like energy as well, are on different wavelengths. Sometimes you can't really have certain conversations with some people because they're just not on that vibe or wavelength. So I mean, is
Right. Yeah.
what you're do you know what I mean? So you'll find, as you continue to do, I think, what you're doing, you'll find people who resonate and connect with you, and some people might not, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, because even the people that don't actually resonate with it, it's because they're intellectualizing it. They can feel it. They can feel energy. When you walk into a room, you can feel and sense someone's vibe. You can sense the tension in their body. And that's the power of the human body. It's more than just flesh and bones. Like, we are energy, and energy doesn't it can't get destroyed. It can only be displaced and moved. So it even, one topic that people don't really like to talk about is death and dying. And that goes hand in hand with healing. Like, you need to be willing to fucking die to heal. You need to be willing to go through anything to make it happen, to get through the other side. And yeah, you know, oftentimes you feel like if you've ever like healed a part of yourself, you're gonna be all right. You know, like you're gonna be able to get through it. You know, it's not such a it's not. It can actually be like a gift to experience death, or to even, you know, like it's gonna sound strange saying this, but you know, one of my greatest gifts in life, we're experiencing the death of my relatives, and just knowing that I had that connection with them, it's gonna stay with me forever. And just to have that perception of them, and to be able to connect with them, it's so powerful. Like you think about them more when they weren't alive than when they were actually alive. So it's really powerful, and I do think there needs to be more education about death and dying,
Mm,
because I
mm,
think a lot of people run away from that, and they see it as this like evil thing. But it, again, you know, it's all about balance. There's there's
mm,
there's no darkness without light. There's no light without darkness. And really
yeah.
what we're trying to do is you know, restore balance on this planet, in ourselves. And yeah, you know, that's kind of the direction I want to go to. And you know, not being afraid to you know, dance with the devil, or play with
Mm,
death, because it's
yeah.
a part of us. It's a part of life. It's part of who we are.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think like you said, in life, you know, like with energy, and you know, like a lot of, I think in the Western world especially, you know, we see death as quite negative. I mean, it is upsetting. Like it is upsetting when someone passes. Um, but the way it's being portrayed in the Western world, for where, you know, from what I've experienced, my side of it is, you know, it's yeah, it's pretty. I think it's very much like that's it, done. It's very, they're gone. You know, like I remember
Yeah,
my
people.
great
Yeah,
my great
yeah,
grandma. It was like there 1 minute, and it's very, how can I put it into words? Condensed, if that makes sense. It's quite morbid the way
right,
it,
right.
it's kind of approached, if that makes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some
yeah, no,
cultures, in some cultures, like they celebrate. There's like, you know, it's a different mindset. I don't know
yeah,
the country, but do you know what I mean? It's like a, they celebrate their life. It's not like
exactly,
this
exactly.
ending dump. It's, do you know what I mean? So I think it's an uncomfortable topic that's kind of it's the relationship. Do you listen to Alan Watts?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He says it's the relationship with death, you know, the
exactly.
relationship with that people struggle with. And it's like you said, you need to be kind of educated on it and go into that relationship with it. And you know, we're alive, and it's that balance in life, isn't it? You know, we're alive, and then yeah, we die, but with energy and things like that, I my belief is that we don't stop. That's not it. You know, I think your energy passes on, and then you, some people believe in reincarnation, or you come back, you know. So I think there's more to what we see and what we can pick up on. And
Exactly.
I mean, I won't go off tangent too much, but I mean, I've experienced like spiritual kind of experiences where I've had experiences where I've picked up on things, you know, energy of certain things have happened, or I've heard noises, you know, these kind of
Mm,
things, and I can't explain them.
right,
And when I
right.
talk about it to people, people look at me and go, oh, it's just the birds on the roof, or they because people are afraid, I think, of the unknown. It's the unknown, you know, with death. It's the unknown with the things you talked about with the 4D um
Ultrasound
screen ultrasound. Yeah. These
and
these
feeling that.
these the healing, yeah, these are, it's not in the known. So people who haven't got depth, or they're intimidated to go into the unknown, it's too much for them. They can't process it. Do
But
you know?
yeah, yeah, I think they're trying to understand it intellectually, and overthinking doesn't get you anywhere. You can fantasize and overthink and try to understand, but nothing is more truthful than direct experience. And when you actually
Yeah,
experience it personally, it changes everything about you. It changes your energy, it changes the way you see the world, and that's when you like truly evolve. And yeah,
mm,
I think I think death is beautiful, and I think it can teach you a lot. And we shouldn't be afraid of it. Sometimes I'll even bring it up with my family members, and immediately they like shut it down. They can't go there. I mean, everyone will go there. They'll get to that space, and if you can accept that, like, you're not going to be afraid of it. You're going to
yeah,
be able to surrender and accept it for what it is, and it's a part of life, and it's beautiful, and it that's the way to bring balance. You
yeah.
can't
Well,
life is not just cupcakes and rainbows. There's more to it.
yeah. I think it's like when you see a flower or a tree, grow. It's like that growth and the process and the journey, and it blossoms, and then it's that natural process. I think if it stayed like that the whole time, it's not that natural process, is it? And I think like it crosses my mind sometimes, every so often, like, your mortality. And I thought about it a lot during COVID, and I thought, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, people do die, people do get sick, people, you know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and life's quite finite, yeah, and that's the right words. And I think what it does to me, knowing that you're going to die one day, it makes me be very, very grateful for where I am right now. For my, like gratitude. I practice gratitude, and I think I'm gonna, try and live my life the best that I can, and I'm grateful for the people I meet, and for the air that I breathe. Do you know what I mean? So it's that perspective. I think when you think about, okay, you're gonna die one day, it makes you, for me personally, it makes me want to do well in life and to have have a positive impact and all of these different things. I
yeah.
think a lot of it's perspective. And I remember, like, I think Gary Vee did a video, and he said to this lady, she was like, "Oh, can I have some advice or some like
Right.
motivation?" And he
I
was like,
remember
"You're
that.
gonna die." He was like, "You're gonna
Yeah,
die,"
yeah,
and it's like,
exactly.
yeah,
It's like, oh shit, you're right. Like, yeah, yeah, and there's many layers to it. It's not just it's not a physical thing always. You can have like when you evolve and when you change, you're also there's parts of yourself that are dying, and it's not always a physical thing. So it's yeah, you need to heal and to evolve. There is a process of dying in that. And if you're willing to heal, you need to be willing to die. And if you're willing to go after your dreams, you need to be willing to give it all up. Do whatever it takes. And sometimes that means going into deep isolation and solitude to protect yourself and protect your dreams. And this is what will leave a powerful legacy. And that's how you really reach immortality, is,
mm,
is is by being connected to that, and leaving something behind that can't be died, that
yeah,
that can't die. And that's why people still talk about Tesla. That's why
yeah,
people still talk about Jesus and Buddha. Like, I mean, who's to say if they're actually real beings? But you the thing, yeah, I'm starting to like understand. You I don't think death is what we think it is, and there's no one alive on this planet that knows more about death than the other person. So it's something we need to come to terms with and explore more if we want to really evolve.
yeah. I think that's a great point. And I think, like, you mentioned like legacy and purpose, and I think that's something, like you don't just you think, like, for one example, like Walt Disney, like, that's always going to be around. Disney, Walt Disney and what he created is still alive. It's still, it's not, I can't see it going anywhere. It's just grown and grown and grown and continue to grow. Um, and like, your legacy, and like, what was it you want to leave behind, and that impact, isn't it? It's so powerful. And I just want to go back as well to what you mentioned with that, like, 4D energy scan, the what's it called, an ultrasound scan, 4D ultrasound scan,
Yeah.
and with energy and healing, and like how people can heal themselves, and how um that isn't kind of in the media to a massive extent,
No.
because I think
Right.
it intimidates. It's it's people, like, it goes back to the unknown. But from people have the ability to heal themselves, and I'm quite spiritual. I'm quite into crystals, and I know people who've done these courses, like energy healing crystal courses, and they've seen energy in auras, of people's aura, and I've seen it sometimes in people, like colors, or like a mist sometimes, and I think there's definitely more to what we see.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
people who have got health conditions, but if you look at people's health conditions, a lot of the time it might be due to their energy.
Yeah.
They're
And
holding negative energy, and what that transmutes as.
yeah. And I don't mean to, take over or anything, but
No.
but you know, oftentimes, especially in the Western society, when you do experience these moments of like these non-physical sensations that you can't really explain, Western society will label it as, psychosis, schizophrenia, and then you have people judging you, and then you start to judge yourself, and that's when you just go into a downward spiral. But and then people start coping with like pharmaceutical drugs, or like overeating, or sex, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, people are gonna, but if when you know yourself, when you have self-awareness, and you're connected to your higher purpose, that shit won't stop you. It's just like, your truth. And other truth is a frequency. People can feel it the same way people can feel when you're lying and your intentions. People will feel your truth, and they can't take that away from you. So that, yeah, I think we live in a really interesting time, especially with how quickly technology is advancing as well. And I'm not, a lot of people think technology is bad, but it really comes down to balance, so yeah, it's how you use it. It's how you use it, and more importantly, how are you letting it use you? And finding that middle ground, and not getting thrown off balance, because, but at the same time, it's okay to be thrown off balance. That's how you grow, that's how you evolve, that's how you ascend. But there's no point of ascension without being able to ground it. So that's why people go to the caves and meditate, and they ascend, and they ascend, and they ascend, and then eventually, who knows what happens to them. They don't come back to the 3D world, and they're not able to share it and educate everyone else. Very, very few people are able to do that. And yeah, so it's definitely an interesting topic, and I think on some level, people have experienced it, whether it's through the use of plant medicine, if you will. It can give you a glimpse of it, but people need to be careful with that, because you can get, it can overtake your being, and it can flip your perspective upside down, and you don't know what to believe, and you don't know what's real, and you don't know who you are, and it can be a scary place if you don't know how to integrate it. So it's people need to be mindful, especially with like DMT coming to the mainstream, and ayahuasca and all that, and
Mm.
yeah, if people inherently know that there's more to life. They like you don't even have to grow up in civilization. You can grow up in the Amazonian jungles with tigers and monkeys and whatever, and you'll still think, or try to conceptualize if there's more to life than what you see in front of you. And it's inherent, like I remember being very young, like 5 years old, and conceptualizing God. And in the most simplest term, like I remember just explaining it, just being like, yo, God is everything. It's everything. And like, to this day I sort of believe that. And it's not like, again, it's balance, it's harmony. And you can't have darkness without light. So it's about integrating both, and being a whole being.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good points. And no, I believe, you create your own universe and everything is energy, and like everything is kind of God. I mean, I'm not like religious. I'm open minded to people's views, and I got nothing. I'm fine with what people believe in. But I do think, like you said, everything's energy, everything's God, like in people create their own universe and that kind of thing, and everything's connected. And like you mentioned, like DMT, like I saw an article that in the United Kingdom they're trialing DMT, doing clinical trials with people who are suffering from depression
Hmm.
alongside talking therapy. And I've heard like many people talk about DMT, and like Joe Rogan's mentioned it,
Yep.
and some other people that I know, and it's yeah, there's definitely more than what we see in front of us. And um I think certain, what's the right word, departments in the medical sector are becoming more open to it, I think, because
Yeah.
with cannabis they're seeing certain things that work. They're seeing CBD and cannabinoids and psychedelics that have had changes on people. So I think they're opening up more to it. Like there's like with the 3D universe and the 4D and 5D, there's a whole massive realm, and I think it's unless you tap into that or you go into that or experience it yourself, it kind of broadens your minds. And
Yep.
when
Yep.
you talk about
Yeah.
sorry.
No, sorry. I mean, I was just gonna say, it's a tool. It's a tool to. It's not a toy. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And we need to be mindful of how we use it. And more importantly, you want to get to a place where you don't even need anything. You want to be like if people really, really knew how intoxicating sobriety actually is, and having that like crystal clear vision and outlook and focus, you're not going to need to cope with reality, because you're just you'll be willing to die in the moment. You'll be willing to surrender to experience life as it is, and not as what you think it is or how you want it to be. And we think we're in control, but we're not. There's
Mm,
only so much we can't control, and most of that is our response to what is happening around us
mm.
and to us. And yeah, so definitely an interesting topic, and
Yeah,
I'm sure we can.
that yeah, definitely. I mean, there's well, when you talk about life and death and spirituality, I mean, like for yourself, like you came through like cancer and stuff like that in the past, and you've come through that. And I think when you sometimes experience certain things in your life, it's kind of makes you think, doesn't it? I think it makes you go to a place. Like for you, you experienced that. For me,
Well,
I
yeah.
kind of I fell through. For me, that for my awakening was I had to almost die. I fell through a skylight on a roof,
Well,
and I cut my arm open and things like that. And as a result of that, I had PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and all of that. And I've spoken about it, quite a few times. But for me, I had to go through that to wake up and have this kind of awakening, and
yeah.
it made me kind of question life. And if there was something there spiritually that stopped me from dying, like anything could
Right.
have happened. So
Right.
there's this it's it's an uncomfortable topic for some people to go into, but when you've been on that fine line of an experience it makes you question things and look at things in a different way.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
find that.
and yeah, and I think, you know, in a lot of ways that was a gift. It was a gift from the universe that for you to go through that. I mean, like, you know, look at where you are right now.
Mm,
Probably like night and day, you know, perspective wise, you know, from a holistic perspective, it's almost like a completely different person. And yeah, you know, from my personal perspective, like, you know, from my, you know, point of view,
yeah.
I don't have any recollection of what happened to me. You know, I was 1 month old when I was diagnosed with cancer, like neuroblastoma. That's the type of cancer. I mean, it was probably harder for my parents and my family to go through it
Yeah.
than me. But I think, you know, being so young and being an open, clear channel, I was
Yeah.
the body has a natural healing mechanism.
Yeah.
We don't need, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I think there is a purpose to Western medicine, especially if you're in like the later stages of the disease. Like it might be actually very useful to use. But the mechanics are the same for healing. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a pimple, a scratch, or if you have a tumor growing out of your fucking body.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
the mechanics are the exact same, and it's that willingness to go to that place to heal no matter what you have to go through, and at some point in our lives we're gonna have to go through that.
Mm. It's yeah, I mean, it's the power of your mind, isn't it? And whether that's sometimes if people experience it themselves or they know someone who's had something, and it's I think the mind's a very powerful place, like, and what we can do, through healing through our mind and energy, and you hear all kinds of different stories of people who've had certain things happen. I mean, I did a podcast with a lady who I'll cut a long story short, she had some surgery on her stomach and she mentally visualized herself getting better. And,
Yeah, man.
and the words she was saying to herself, and her mum came to her side and, kind of prayed and sent her good
Hmm.
energy, and she was fine, and like, I think
Healed.
less than however long the doctor said she would be, in a
Yeah,
state for.
yeah,
So there's a lot that, like, hey, like certain elements of Western medicine is good, but then you think to yourself, the power of your mind and your body and energy and healing, it's a completely different spectrum, but it's real, and I think for you mentioned, your previous experiences of seeing people healed in the street. I mean, that's something, for
yeah.
people to experience and witness that.
It's magical. It's magical, and yeah, you know, it's, I think, you know, for me, like in my own personal life and the story that I'm creating for myself and the life I want to live, like it's a big part of who I am, and I from a very young age I believed in magic,
Mm,
and not in the sense that like an illusion, but like more so in the sense the ability to manifest whatever it is that you want. And you know, I have like this one vivid memory of I was really young. I was like, maybe my oldest brother was picking me up from kindergarten, and it was raining outside, and I was like begging him. I was like, man, just like, cause like he would always, like, I guess as a joke, you know, he was 9 years older than me, and you know, like super young, and he was the oldest of all the siblings, and you know, he would always, like, I don't know, he was kind of like my first like inspiration into believing magic and
mm,
whatnot. But yeah, like he picked me up from school. I was like in grade one, kindergarten, like super young, and it was raining outside, and I was just begging him. I was like, man, just like make mom pick us up. Just like snap your fingers and make it happen. And he was just like, fuck, okay, fine. And then all I see is my mom just like roll up, and I was just like, yo, from it just the more connected you are to life, the easier it is to see the symbolism in life, and it's easier to see the signs. And oftentimes we distract ourselves from that, you know, whether it's through technology, food, you know, drugs, whatever. And yeah, that's why, you know, ideally you want to get to a place where you don't need to rely on anything. You don't need to rely on crystals. You don't need to rely on the alignment of the stars. You can just be a clear, open channel that's willing to accept everything as it is, and just be okay with that. And I
Mm.
think that's how you can experience magic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, you know, something that I think is so important to be able to ultimately know yourself, isn't it? And not be reliant on certain external things, you know, in an unhealthy way. And I think in Western society, a lot of people are caught in those loops, and
Yeah.
I think we can all kind of get caught in those places at some point. You know, I remember when I used to buy like shirts. You know, I'd buy a shirt every time I went out. You know, and I'd have all these shirts that I didn't really need, and it's, you know, and it's everyone's different. Everyone has their own handle. But I think recognizing that, you know, being that self awareness is definitely powerful and important. That's where change can happen as well.
Yeah.
And I was thinking as well, like, do you have any kind of role models or like mentors, like now or growing up? Like you mentioned your brother.
Well, okay, so you know, when I think of role models, um, there's definitely people I have admiration for and I looked up to. But essentially, you know, I want to say my role model is who I want to be 5 years, 10 years from now. It's the kind of person I
Yeah.
want, my highest self. And yeah, so you know, but the people that I really looked up to were my grandparents, and it's part
Mm.
of the reason why I'm like really, kind of sounds a little fucked up, but like I'm thankful to have a relation, or to have had a relationship with them, despite the fact that they're not here physically. And I think that's been the greatest gift. And you know, it's yeah, you know, for example, like my grandma just had a heart of gold. Like she was just an angel, and I'd never not seen her that way. And the fact that I had that relationship with her, it was a gift. And you know, my grandpa was fucking resilient. He was just like able to overcome anything. And you know, to have that, I couldn't even really speak to, like, we didn't even speak the same language, my grandfather and I. And this is from my mom's side. I didn't really get the chance to meet my grandparents on my dad's side. But yeah, something tells me that yeah, you know, I really have a lot of respect for parents that that love each other, because I think it's the best thing you can do for your children and your family. And I think, you know, nowadays we're quick to run away and you know, jump off the ship, if you will. And yeah, so you know, like, I don't know if this is a little bit off topic, but you know, the greatest things you can do for your children is for the parents to love each other. And right now it's I'm like super grateful for my parents, because you know, they've demonstrated that to me. And it's the best thing they could have done for me, you know. So yeah, you know, and it's interesting because you know, I mentioned how, you know, I'm going through a time where I'm like trying to reconsider my career, and you know, what am I going to do as a profession. And I just want to become the person that can be a good father, and be able to take care of a family. And I think when you get to that place, you're gonna be a good businessman. You're gonna be a good friend. You're gonna be a good, you know, son, whatever. So you know, but they don't educate people on that. You know, on yeah, people, you don't hear people saying, oh, I well, maybe you do actually. You might hear people saying, oh, you know, like, I just want to grow up to be a
Mm.
good mother or a good father, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of rare for people to connect with that. And you know, we all have our dreams and stuff. Like, I know, you know, for me personally, community, healing,
Yeah.
and technology, are the path that I want to go down. And I'm a really big fan of basketball. Like basketball for me was my first meditation, if you will. You know, where I grew up, there was a few NBA players that it just like kind of amplified the love for the game. But you know, I I remember when I was in like 2013, I was trying to like I really wanted to work for the Raptors. And but you know, I remember like writing up my cover letter and like trying to apply, and I even like went to the building and fucking sat there for like 5 hours. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I just knew that I wanted it. And you know, over the years, like I kind of lost touch with that because, you know, the world around me was saying, buddy, like go to school, get your 9 to 5 job, like be realistic. And but working that 9 to 5 job, or you know, getting that traditional, going through that traditional route was not realistic for me. And you know, one of the questions you asked, I think earlier, is like, you know, what's one of my biggest fears, and that's being mediocre, just living an average life. Like that's scary to me, you know. It's like, to me, that's worse than dying. It's not even, you don't even get to experience that depth of life. And you know, I want to be able to get to that place because I want to stay in that place so I can experience the magic of life and the synchronicities and the coincidence that makes you, that open your mind and your heart up to receiving more. And I think we live in a really interesting time. And right now I'm just trying to focus on my health and and my finances. So yeah, you know, I have a lot of faith in myself. You know, I think good things are coming my way, and I'm just trying to be open to that and
Mm.
receiving it. And you know, there's obviously going to be you know, some bumps and hurdles along the way, but when you're connected to your purpose, like you're willing to go through that.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think they're really great points, and I think what you mentioned as well, like with you know, society, and I had this conversation with someone recently, is that society, you know, like you said, like you want to be a dad and have a family, be that kind of person, which I think, you know, is exceptional, and that's something I think that it's kind of in us as people, you know, as a human being. You know, a lot of us want to have a family and to be able to have children and to provide, you know, be that provider, be you know, that role model for other people as well. I think it's a powerful place, and it's rewarding. And you know, if it's natural, then I think it's, you know, even more rewarding. And like with our society is, and talk about, like, you know, work and jobs. You know, like I think that's one of my fears when you mentioned it. You know, like being mediocre. Like, that's probably worse than death when you think about it, because you. I mean, if someone's happy doing a certain job, that's very different. That is very different. But if
Yeah,
someone is not happy and they're doing something that they dislike, and they're not acting on their dreams and things like that, that's terrifying. And I think society in education just teaches you to get a certain title, to get a certain job, to have, you know, X, Y, Z, and there's much more to life than just that. You know, as you
yeah,
mentioned, and being able to find something, to do something that is you enjoy ultimately, and to follow that. And you know, even if that's through sport or work or whatever it is, there's so many elements, and you know, that it's connected to. And I think basketball is great, and you know, something that I've got into recently. And when I first connected with you, I think you kind of got me into it, like NBA and stuff like that. And I started getting into the Lakers, and then when the Gary V hype happened with all the sports cards, me and my friend got into it, and we started buying
yeah,
sports cards. So I've got loads of like sports cards now and stuff.
yeah,
But uh, but yeah, there's so many elements. You know, that brings me joy and happiness doing that. So that's like, you know, one thing. But it's so important, you know, to have, like, you know, role models, and you mentioned your grandparents, you know, and um, looking at other people's lessons and their legacy and their teachings to you. It's it's pretty powerful, and that makes you want to do the same, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, just listening to you talk right now, and just hearing you kind of like, regurgitate our conversation. um I just had like this light bulb moment where, like, being a father or a mother is one of the ways to preserve your legacy. I feel like it's the most natural way to do it. And I'm not here to tell people like how to live their life and what they want to do, whether you want to be a parent or not, or like you want to have a family, or if you don't want to have family, or if you don't want to have children and whatnot. I can only speak for myself. My perspective is, this is my life, it's my story. I'm trying to be the hero of my own journey, just like someone's trying to be the hero of their own journey. I'm not here to tell people what to do. I can only express myself, and you just take it as it is, or you don't. And it's not gonna, at the end of the day, you still got to live your own life. And you're gonna go to bed,
Mm.
you're gonna process your own life.
Mm.
Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. So
That's it. And I think with that as well, like a lot of people, you know, like you mentioned, you've got to live your own life, and you're sharing your experience, and that's why I love doing podcasts, because you get to connect with people and they're sharing their experience. And I think everyone's got their own story and everyone's got their own silver lining to share, like you have. And some people, we go back to imposter syndrome, come up against that, and they think, I shouldn't share, or I don't want
yeah,
to appear a certain way.
yeah.
And that's something. I think, I don't know if there's studies on it, but I think they said it exists in a lot of people to some extent. We'll have different percentages of it or come up against it. But ultimately, someone may watch or listen to this, take something fantastic from it, and change their life. You don't know
Yeah.
who's on the other side listening to it. So I think we have some kind of what's the
Purpose.
right word? Purpose to, to deliver our message and our story, and to do things like this. It's and then again, when you go back to legacy, this is going to go online. It's going to be on there forever. If you
That's the
When I put it
beauty of
onto YouTube,
technology.
yeah.
It's I think we live in a, if anyone's alive in this era, like the opportunity is astounding. And
Mm.
when you have the self-awareness and the connection to your higher purpose, you can attract those opportunities, you can attract those abundance. And it's really the mind that gets in the way. It's the disconnect between the mind and the heart that creates these limitations. And unfortunately, some people get stuck in that, and they just keep repeating the same loops and over until one day they the only time they can experience it is when they physically go away.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
no,
but
it's
that's not, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's that's probably the reason why we're having this conversation, or is to hopefully just inspire other people to,
mm,
there's more out there. There's especially,
yeah,
change is permanent, and it's the only thing that is permanent. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, definitely. I think it's so true. And like you're all here for a purpose in life, I think, and we've all got our own place in the world and things like that, and everything happens for a reason. And like, just before we round up, I was just thinking, do you have any like favorite books or anything like that you like to read?
um I don't
Audiobooks or podcasts or anything like that, or anything?
I mean, I don't know, it's so hard to choose. Like, I don't have a favorite anything really. I mean,
Or books that you like? Do you read at all?
there was a book I read like years ago, that I found pretty interesting and inspiring. It was called The Education of Millionaires. And it was basically, I think the author's name is like Michael Ellsberg or something. I don't know, but
Mm.
he was interviewing a lot of millionaires, and just getting insight into their mindset was profound. And I remember, like, that was one of the questions you said you would ask, and I was like, fuck, man, like, I don't really read that much. But I do like, if there's something I'm interested in, I'll read. And right now I'm like kind of involved with crypto and NFTs, if you're familiar with that. So
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot about that, and it's really fascinating. The direction humanity is going in, and is so interesting. And the way technology is going to integrate with our everyday life, it's going to be mind-blowing. And it already is, just hearing people talk about it. And essentially it's going to be an extension of our existence. So technology is a part of life, just as much as you know just as much as anything.
Mm.
And it's,
I,
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, it's really how you use it. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's evil, or it's destroying humanity, blah blah blah. But it's really about perspective, and the goal is to restore balance.
mm. Yeah, no, definitely. I love that. And I think it's definitely a tool in how you use it. And before we did this podcast, I sent you like a text on Instagram, and I thought to myself, I had like a moment of clarity, and I was like, I've just sent a message from the UK to America, and you've received it in like a nanosecond or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And I think we take that for granted, the ability to do that.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
and I just did it, and I really thought about it for a second. I was like, it's
yeah.
still
It's
pretty.
cool.
Yeah, and I was like, with this, and then we went straight into the Zoom, and like, we were able to talk in real time, a
Yeah,
different part of the
exactly.
globe, and it's mind blowing. And you think back to the early days of like Skype and video calling, and I remember like when I first got an Xbox, and I was able to talk to my friends and
Yeah,
across the pond, and it was just like, this is insane.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's definitely how you use it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just think as well, like where can people find you on social media or email or anything like that you're kind of
I mean,
using?
I have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Aviv Joseph. Um, I think you might be able to see my name on the podcast. I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe at the bottom or something. But yeah, it's yeah, I'm trying to use social media now
Mm,
in a I'm trying to step more into a leadership position, and
mm,
essentially lead myself, and step more into a creator mindset rather than just consuming. Because if you have the time to consume, you also have the time to create. And sometimes I need to relearn that lesson. And it just, that goes back to my own personal habits and patterns and behavior that I need to look into. And we do have the ability to transform our habits and virtues and our vices. We can transform it all, but you got to stay connected to your higher self-awareness. It's funny, I was talking to my brother the other day, and he mentioned meta awareness, and it's that ability to observe the observer. And you're gonna go into like this, like, inception of awareness, to the point where it's like you're gonna realize like nothing even is real. So yeah, I don't know, I don't really know what the hell I'm saying, to be honest. Sometimes, like, I like listen to myself and I'm like, Jesus, like, is anyone gonna even understand this? But yeah, so we humans are divine by nature. um
mm.
and people are gonna tell you they're not. They're gonna show you that they're not. They're gonna try to use science, math, whatever. But once you've directly experienced it, no one can take that away from you.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely important, isn't it? I think to have these kind of conversations, to be able to get to know yourself and to look outside the box, because there's a whole world out there, and there's a whole much more to life than what we, I think, see, and it's, it, you have to kind of go through the motions of being overwhelmed, because
Mhm.
when someone, you listen to podcasts, or you learn things or see things, you think, oh wow, that's scary, but then you have to see it, you have to experience it if you want to grow and to learn, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, it's not as scary as we think it is. It's the anticipation that makes it so scary. Just overthinking, like we're just thinking too much about it. It's
Mm,
that disconnect. So it's okay to be scared, but the more you lean into it, the less scary it feels.
mm. I I mean, I won't go into it too much, but I mean, one example, with technology is like the deep web. Like, I never
Yeah.
knew anything about it, and then you think about that, and you
Hmm.
think about the living in the box and seeing what you see, and now there's a whole another layer that's there that people
Yeah.
don't even, I mean, I've seen YouTube videos on it, people talking about it, and it's crazy. And
Yeah.
I think, though, you have to be careful if you're getting involved in that, but there's a lot of things on, out there that it's like, for example, if people go through their life watching the same TV channels, there's loads more TV channels out there. Just if you switch the channel and you go
Right.
onto a different road, and
Right.
it's like that in life, isn't it? People stay on that same road the entire time in their entire life, and you think you're just existing. There's so many other paths and narratives, and having conversations with different kinds of people and different topics. Like things like this. For example, I think some of the things that we talk about and the depth that we go to, I couldn't do this with some of the people that I know, and it's important to be able to go to that place. Don't you think?
Yeah. 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 And yeah, there's a quote from like Albert Einstein or something. I don't even remember exactly what it is, but
Along the lines.
you know, like I'm gonna try and paraphrase it, but essentially, when you're connected to your higher self, you're not gonna feel alone.
Mm,
That sense of loneliness won't be there, and it's a really beautiful place to be. To be in your
yeah,
own energy and solitude, and just to not feel alone. It's powerful,
yeah,
and a lot of people are. I don't know if they maybe they get a glimpse of it, but and I've definitely been in and out of it, but my intention, to be the person that the world needs me to be, I'm
mm,
gonna preserve that. And
yeah,
whether it means, having to give things up forever or whatnot, so
yeah,
be it. I'm ready.
yeah. That's it. It's powerful, and it reminds me of I'm reading Green Lights at the minute by Matthew McConaughey, and
Okay, interesting.
he he talked about a similar process. He collected all these journals of his life. He's very introspective, and he collated is that even a word? He
Consolidate.
consolidate, but yeah, I said collidate, but consolidated all his journals over like
Okay.
20 years and put them into the
Okay,
book.
interesting.
And he spent time away in the desert by himself to, to create that book. And
Yeah.
he said in his, this isn't word for word, but along the lines, he said, to be able to trust your own judgment and basically stand on your own feet and be able to trust your own intuition and your thoughts is quite liberating, is it, to be able to trust
Yeah.
your own
Yeah, man.
mind and body.
Yeah. 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 It will never make sense to the rational mind.
Yeah.
I before I started traveling with that world class healer, I uh I reached out to him and I'm like, yo, dude, I'm gonna be your cameraman. Like I just like sent that to him and he was like, all right, yo, fuck yeah. And like I didn't even have a camera at the time. I didn't even have the money for a camera. and it was like, I don't recommend anyone do this, but like I just took my credit card and I bought the camera, and like I didn't even have the funds to buy it. And like,
Yeah, you fun.
thankfully, my family, like I eventually told my family, and like, they helped me out, and like I was able to pay them back. And but it was just, trusting that intuition. It was so liberating. And that was, I had to take that leap
Mm,
to experience everything I experienced, and to get to the place where I am today. And
yeah.
I plan on taking more leaps.
Mm, mm. That's powerful, and I think it's trusting your intuition, isn't it? Just taking that leap of faith and just doing it, And I think back, it kind of goes back to that can change the course of your life. Just taking that leap. It's that fine line, and I think back to when we first connected. I mean, was it on Instagram or LinkedIn? I think it was Instagram or LinkedIn.
I
I
think
think it was
LinkedIn, probably
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
If we wouldn't have connected or reached out to one another, we wouldn't be doing this. And
Yeah,
it, yeah, you just got to take that leap of faith, haven't you? Really? I mean,
yeah,
what have you got to lose, kind of thing.
exactly. And that's a very powerful place when you got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Mm, definitely, definitely. But no, it's been an absolute incredible pleasure to have you back on the podcast, and I really
Yeah,
really
man.
enjoyed talking to you, and there's a lot of value and good content that we've shared in this episode, and I wish you all the best in what you're doing. I think you're doing great, and I just want to commend you for just being honest and um, true to yourself, and being authentic. I think it's quite rare, So yeah, any way I can help or support you by promoting anything that you're doing, I'm happy to do that. But all the best in what you're doing, and I look forward to connecting with you again.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And I appreciate everything you're doing. Just keep it up, keep doing you, and you're doing more than enough for me by just
Yeah,
following your path and your
yeah.
true path.
No, thank you, man. I really,
Appreciate it,
really
bro.
appreciate it. Yeah, you too. All the best, Aviv, and take care.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro.
Cheers, man. Cheers, man. Cheers, man.